Every woman, no matter how soft, how fierce or innocent or how guarded, has one burning desire most men will never trigger. It's not dates, it's not compliments, it's not wealth, it's surrender. Not weakness, not submission out of fear, not obedience through control, but real surrender of her mind, her body, her soul, into the energy of a man who knows who he is. A man who doesn't flinch, a man who doesn't chase, a man who doesn't beg for approval, validation, or attention. A man who leads without needing to control, who dominates without ever raising his voice, and who makes her feel more like a woman. Not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. Every woman holds this desire, but most men will never trigger it. Not because women are cold, closed, or confusing, but because men have forgotten who they are. They live in their heads. They second guess their instincts. They fear rejection, fear failure, fear offending. So they play it safe. They become nice. They become passive. They become soft. And in trying to become what they think women want, they lose the one thing women actually craving: a man who is deeply rooted in his masculine core. Let me say this clearly. A woman's dark desire isn't for chaos. It's not for drama. It's pains for intensity. A depth so deep she can finally let go of control. A presence so strong she can stop performing. A masculinity so real, it unravels the layer she's been hiding behind. But you can't fake this. You can't memorize lines from dating gurus. You can't mimic alpha energy. You can't wear confidence like a mask. She feels the difference. She reads energy, not words. That's why most men, even the good ones, stay stuck. They do everything right. They're kind. They're available. They show up. But something is missing because they don't touch her soul. They don't reach the dark fire she hides from the world. You see, every woman, underneath her routines, her rules, her resistance, wants to be taken, not against her will, but beyond it, taken out of her mind and into her body, out of her fear and into her surrender, out of the masculine role she's had to play in life, into the feminine mystery she was born to express. But she can only go there with a man who is more grounded than her chaos. That's what most men miss. They think sex is about technique. They think attraction is about looks. They think connection is about being available. But no woman ever surrenders to logic. She surrenders to certainty. And you can't give her it if you don't have it in yourself. Certainty isn't arrogance. It's not ego. It's not aggression. It's the calm, quiet confidence of a man who knows what he wants and never has to prove it. That kind of man is rare because it requires deep inner work. You have to stop seeking approval. You have to stop chasing validation. You have to stop begging for a seat at her table and instead build your own. You want to awaken her dark desire. Don't ask for it. Don't talk about it. Become the man who naturally activates it. Become the man she dreams of, but would never admit out loud. The one who doesn't chase, but draws her in. The one who doesn't perform, but provokes her depth. The one who doesn't need her, but makes her feel chosen. You do that not by becoming louder, but by becoming more still. Not by coming harder, but by coming more solid. Because women don't surrender to pressure. They surrender to presence. A man who is present is magnetic. His energy doesn't spike. His words carry weight. His silence is more seductive than another man's flattery. He doesn't need to dominate her. He simply is. And that alone awakens everything she's been trying to hide. But here's the catch: to hold a woman's surrender, you must first hold your own shadow. You must face your fears, your insecurities, your past. Because the moment she feels you flinch, the moment she senses you can't handle her storm, she pulls away. Not out of spite, but out of protection. A woman's surrender is sacred, and she will only offer it to a man who can be trusted with her most raw expression. That means you can't get reactive. You can't punish her for testing you. You can't collapse when she challenges your strength. You have to lead with depth. You have to love with standards. You have to stand in your truth even when it shakes everything around you. That's the kind of man who awakens her dark desire, the one who doesn't get consumed by her beauty, but sees into her fire and says, "You don't scare me." The one who doesn't try to fix her chaos, but holds space for it, so she can finally relax into her essence. Most men are too afraid to lead, too afraid to offend, too afraid to take the risk of truly showing up. So they become passive, they over-apologize, they tiptoe. And then they wonder why she doesn't light up for them. Why she stops being passionate, why she doesn't surrender. It's because she doesn't feel safe. And a woman cannot surrender where she doesn't feel safe. Safety isn't about being nice. It's about being grounded in truth. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when it means saying no to her demands. Because you refuse to betray your own mission. Women don't respect men who fold. They respect men who lead from principle. And when a woman respects you, her desire changes. It deepens. It burns. It stops being just physical and becomes spiritual. She doesn't just want your body, she wants your energy, your presence. And when you give her that, not as a transaction, but as your natural state, she will go deeper with you than you ever imagined. She'll stop testing, she'll stop resisting, she'll stop protecting, because you will have touched the part of her most men never even see. That is the ultimate reward of the awakened masculine. Not more women, not more attention, not more sex, but deeper access to the feminine in her full, wild, sacred expression, because you earned it, because you stood tall, because you saw through her performance, through her armor, through her doubt, and stayed unshaken. That's when her dark desire ignites. Not the surface desire to be kissed or held, but the soul desire to be ravished, led, protected, and adored by a man strong enough to hold all of her. And in that space, she becomes more than a woman. She becomes your mirror. She becomes your muse. She becomes the force that amplifies your mission. But only if you rise first. So stop asking how to make her want you. Stop chasing love like a beggar. Stop watering yourself down to be accepted. And start becoming the kind of man she can't help but surrender to. Not because you played a game, but because you became the truth. Every woman, no matter how independent, how guarded, or how emotionally complex, holds within her a deep, primal desire. A desire she doesn't speak of openly, a desire she may not even fully understand herself, but it's there beneath the layers of logic, pride, and performance. It's the desire to surrender, not in weakness, not in submission to control, not as an act of defeat, but to surrender to a man who awakens something inside her that no one else ever could. A man who doesn't conquer her with fear, but invites her into full expression through his unwavering presence. A man whose certainty silences her inner chaos, not by silencing her, but by anchoring himself. A man who leads not with force, but with such grounded power that she feels safe not to obey, but to let go. This is not the surrender of giving up. It's the surrender of coming home, home to her body, home to her heart, home to her deepest feminine essence that's been waiting, yearning, itching to be seen, and held without judgment. Most women are never met in this space, because most men are chasing pleasure, not presence. They want access to her body, but they can't hold space for her soul. They want to dominate, but they don't know how to lead. And so she stays closed, guarded, numb, performing her way through relationships, giving her time, but never her truth. But when she meets a man who sees her, not just her beauty, not just her charm, but the sacred storm within her, and he doesn't run from it, doesn't shrink under it, doesn't try to fix it, she begins to soften. Because now she feels what she's always craved but never found the freedom to let go, to fall without fear, to express without shame, to love without holding back. That kind of surrender is only possible in the presence of a man who is more grounded than her emotions, more committed to truth than to approval, more embodied in his masculine power than seduced by her surface. That man, he doesn't need to manipulate. He magnetizes her. He triggers the part of her that no money, no status, no looks could ever reach. And that is where true intimacy begins. Not at the level of the body, but at the level of the soul. Most men are stuck in surface level living. They operate from attraction or logic, chasing the look, the body, the status, the checklist. They think if they say the right thing, look the right way, or provide enough, the woman will surrender, love will flow, devotion will follow. But here's the true thing: you cannot unlock a woman's soul with surface energy. You can turn her on physically. You can impress her with logic. You can win her attention with effort. But if your energy doesn't reach her depth, she will never truly surrender. She will never soften in your presence. She will never offer you her devotion, not the kind that flows without force, but the kind that ignites something sacred and wild. Because her deepest craving, this buried desire to let to dissolve into trust, to offer herself fully, can only be awakened by energy, not intellect. Most men never learn this. They stay stuck in their heads. They analyze, they calculate, they overthink every word, every move, every text. They try to get it right instead of becoming real, and as a result, they become forgettable. She may sleep with them, she may compliment them, she may even date them, but something inside her remains untouched, unmoved, unawakened. Because her feminine essence cannot be claimed by logic, it is only stirred by presence, by the silent, grounded energy of a man who is rooted in himself, who knows who he is, what he stands for, what he feels. A man who doesn't flinch when she tests him, who doesn't collapse when she expresses fire, who doesn't get pulled into overthinking, but holds steady in the storm. That man doesn't try to convince her. He doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't overexplain. He simply is. And in that being, she feels a part of herself wake up, a part that's been waiting, etching. For a man strong enough to handle her unfiltered truth, her raw emotion, her sacred chaos. That's when surrender happens. Not because he asked for it, but because he earned it. Not with charm, but with character. Not performance, but with presence. Not with pressure, but with power. And that is the energy most men never learn to embody. But the moment you do, everything changes. The awakened man doesn't chase. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't manipulate, persuade, or play games to win a woman's affection. Why? Because he understands something most men never dog masculine power doesn't pursue. It attracts. It doesn't dominate. It anchors. The awakened man has done the work. He's faced his shadows. He's cleaned up the boyish need to be liked, validated, or constantly reassured. He no longer seeks to prove his worth to women because he already knows who he is. And that knowing, that inner stillness, that unshakable clarity is magnetic. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not aggressive. It's the quiet, solid energy of a man who walks into a room and doesn't need to be seen because he already sees himself. And women feel it. They feel it before you speak. They feel it in your posture, your breath, your eyes, your energy. It's not performance, it's presence. And presence is what allows a woman to relax, to exhale, to stop pretending, to stop controlling, to stop guarding. Because now, for the first time, she feels safe. Not just physically, but emotionally. Safe to feel, safe to reveal, safe to express the full range of her intensity without being judged, shamed, or misunderstood. You see, every woman carries an inner wildness, a fire, a hunger, a chaos of emotion and energy that she often hides from the world because so few men can actually hold it. But when she meets a man who doesn't try to fix her, doesn't flinch at her fire, doesn't collapse under her emotion, she comes alive. Because that's when she finally meets the untouchable force her soul has always craved. A man who leads, not with force but with depth. A man who stands firm, not to control her but to contain her freedom. A man who invites her darkness, not to exploit it but to honor it. That is the awakened masculine. Not loud, not manipulative, not controlling, just deeply present. And in his presence, she finds what she's been missing, a safe space to surrender her masks and become fully, unapologetically woman.